He's just a common man, working hard with his hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is John Ware. We are back here tonight, and I got a very special guest, the mad scientist of violence himself, Mr. Nathan Hamilton. How are you doing, sir?
Dude, I got Dusty Rhodes intro music. I'm doing great.
I mean, it's the American dream, man.
Absolutely. Round the tower, kings and queens, and I had slept in alleys eating pulp and beans, if you will.
You know what's a funny story about Dusty is, like, growing up, I only knew Dusty from WWF, and I didn't like him.
Polka Dot Dusty.
Yeah, Polka Dot. I had to become a man before I ever liked Dusty.
Well, I remember when I was probably 10 or 11, living here in Atlanta. My dad worked about half a mile from CNN Center. So every now and then when I went to work with him, we'd go eat lunch there, and of course that's where WCW's offices were. And I met Dusty there, and I remember looking at him and going, "What the hell is up with his forehead?"
Yeah.
And now I know.
So, your first Carnage Cup was Carnage Cup 7. That was actually your first live death match ever, correct?
That was the first deathmatch show I ever went to. I had discovered death matches many years before, and was watched them on DVD and watched them on VHS. I'm an old fuck. But yeah, I've watched them for years and years, and I don't even remember how I heard about it. But I was always like, God, Tournament of Death from like Delaware, and I'd have to drive to Illinois and all to see King of the Dead. Wait a minute, there's a deathmatch tournament that I can drive to? Fuck yeah, so I had to come. And that was quite an experience, man. Now, this is your first Carnage Cup. Well, not the first one you were at, but the first one you wrestling, correct?
Yes, first one I got to wrestle at. I was technically supposed to have been on Carnage Cup 5, and, that didn't work out. And then I was supposed to, I turned down the offer to be on Carnage Cup 6. So, I finally debuted on Carnage Cup 7.
That was my debut, I guess, too.
But you picked a hell of a one to be on because, you got to be witness the debut of John Ware on Carnage Cup, and then also Matt Tremont. It was his first one ever. And at that time, Matt Tremont, no one really knew who he was.
I remember leaving that show, and on the way home, I remember turning to Leah and saying, "Man, I don't know who that Tremont kid is, but he's good. He's going to be something." And my words were correct, apparently.
Like, I remember, this was back when it wasn't Facebook. What was it? MySpace. There was there was a MySpace poll, and someone started a poll for who was the MVP, and me and Tremont tied. So I was like, hell yeah.
Nice. That is quite the company you keep there, my friend.
So give me your opinion on this. And not only was it my debut, it was Tremont's debut, but it was also the American version of the Saw Death Match.
Okay. I had perhaps a very unique perspective on the Saw Death Match because we had eaten a bunch of mushrooms before that show. So I was in an altered state of mind, sitting probably 10 feet away when you stab Spider. So it's one thing to be at your first deathmatch show and see someone get stabbed. Because that's insane. Because, I've watched deathmatch shows forever, never seen that. But I saw it tripping balls. So it freaked me out a little bit. Like, all these colors are coming out of Spider's arm and shit.
That spot, it's going on 10 years now when that spot happened. And when people talk about, the most hated spot in deathmatch history, that is pretty much brought up every fucking time.
Yeah, that brought up the hell of a ruckus, man. I remember in the time after that, just seeing constantly, that's not wrestling. That's bullshit. Is that really too far for you guys? Then are you really deathmatch fans? I've always wondered about that, because, if you hear the deathmatch fans say something's too violent, that's just like, I love horror movies, but I don't like the gory ones. I don't get that.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's funny. Like, my mindset over the years is like, whenever I first started watching death matches, I watched like New Japan, or, Japan.
Yeah.
I watched all that stuff. But whenever I like watched my first CZW death match, and I think it was like Wife Beater and I think it was Wife Beater and Zandig, but I may be wrong. But it was the one where they were using the Weed Whacker.
Nick Mondo.
Okay, and like when I watched that, I personally was like, you know what, that's just too far. And that shows you how far I've developed my violence over the years. When I thought that was too far.
Yeah, I'm not. One day, I bet. It just keeps escalating. One day, I might see something that makes me go, "Ooh, that's going a little too far," but it hasn't happened yet. So, although sizzler boards make me nervous, I will say that.
Yeah, like. And Carnage Cup 7 was, it was, to me, that was basically like my WrestleMania, because that was the biggest show that I was ever on at that point. Because, yes, I was supposed to have been on 5 and 6, and, that never happened. So other than that, I was just bouncing around at, all the local indie shows. And, so when I walked in at Carnage Cup 7, to me, that was my big time. So... And, like, me and Spider, like, I think the very first person I talked to that night when I walked in was actually Neil Diamond Cutter, because, that's who I was facing second round.
Right.
So,
An Exorcist match.
Yeah, so we went over a few things, but, like, other than that, I'm just sitting there looking around in shock and awe that, that I'm actually doing a fucking Carnage Cup.
Yeah, how many had you been to at that point?
The only one prior to that I actually was at was 5, because that was my ring that they used that night.
Right, I heard you say that on one of these interviews. I don't remember which one, but yeah, I heard you mention that. That's cool.
Now, other than
Carnage Cup history.
Yeah, other than that, I never went to any of the previous ones, even though, like, I'm notorious now. Everybody knows I had a big backyard wrestling group. My backyard wrestlers were always at the Carnage Cups, like they loved it, but. I was just kind of dead on the indie scene. I didn't go to indie wrestling back then. And I wish I would have, because, hell, I probably could have debuted a lot quicker. But,
yeah, probably.
Like, the Carnage Cup 6 story is, Kevin did reach... Well, Kevin reached out to Big James Mayhem, which was in the Deathmatch Rumble. The guy that almost got his fucking ear cut off.
Got his ear chopped off, yeah.
And, he tried to book me on 6. And at the time, I was actually already booked on Wrestle Birmingham for Linda Marks. I was supposed to have wrestled, I think, Brad Armstrong that night, but he ended up not showing, so I ended up wrestling the Nightmare Ted Allen instead. And
I'm glad you brought up that Deathmatch Rumble, because one of my favorite moments from that whole show was that was also the first time I'd ever made weapons, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing yet. And I didn't know the skinny tubes were way worse than the big tubes.
yeah.
And I had made a little red wagon that I covered in the small white tubes, and they had it outside for the Rumble. And anytime someone got thrown over on that side, you would see them just dive in the exact opposite direction of the slow red wagon.
Yes.
Like no one was going in that thing. But Dusty McWilliams, he saw the no one's here, and he fell straight into it. And then he watched me out of the corner of his eye until I got over there and took a picture, and then he got up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You always have my respect for that. That's dope as shit.
I love Dusty. Dusty was our Birmingham Hardcore Wrestling first champion, and that's when he suffered. That's when he suffered that injury. That paralyzed him. Halfway paralyzed him for a while, so he had to retire.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dusty's super awesome. He, his in my debut IWA Deep South match, I was in there with him.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, me and him got. It was the pay-per-view was IWA Deep South presents Southern Discomfort. I was in there in a 4-way death match with Dusty McWilliams, Cornerstone, and Phil Macchio.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Cornerstone and Dusty were both in the Battle Royal, and then, of course,
Yep.
Phil that night took on, oh, shit. I know he got the...
Jeremy.
Jeremy, and he got the shit chopped out of him.
Yeah, he did. God, his chest got massacred.
So, like, after Carnage Cup 7, hell, even after Carnage Cup 7, me and you met up right after, by accident. Remember that?
Yeah, the Waffle House.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, me and my crew went in there, and there you were. So we sat there and talked about Carnage Cup and ate hash browns, and yeah, it was a fun night, man. That was a hell of a show.
So, what is...
I left an instant addict.
Yeah, like, well, that's what I said after Carnage Cup 5, is like, after 5, that's whenever I really wanted to get into it. I had to sit ringside, but after watching that shit, I really fucking wanted to get in there.
I feel like so we kind of had the same trajectory there. Went to a show, sat there as a spectator, got hooked, and then got involved.
So yeah, Carnage Cup 7 was, absolutely, fucking crazy. Obviously that's whenever my name blew up in a positive way and in a negative way too. Because a funny story is, like, at Next Era, which was another local fed that I wrestled for, at the next show I was in the back, and one of the local guys just came up to me and he was like, "If you pull the box cutter out on me, I'm beating your ass." And a lot of people started... Yeah, a lot of people started taking that serious.
What I think in that Saw match, there's a bump in that no one talks about, because everyone talks about the stabbing. But when you gave Spider the sidewalk slam off the Coke machine, the way his head just bounces off the concrete, like, just watching it now, it made it, that's awful.
And
like, that was brutal.
And
the whole match was.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even realize, the fucking table we landed on had fucking sewing needles on it.
That's because the camera didn't pick them up at all.
So yeah, like, yeah, you're right. That whole damn bump is underrated because people just don't understand. And that's also where I injured my hip for the first damn time.
I believe it. I mean, what we watched that is like, because everyone, when they think about that match, the stabbing, because it was such a big thing, is what stands out. But the whole match all through was just straight brutality. I mean, you went through razor boards, and like we said, Spider went through a needle table and smashed his head in the concrete. That match was brutal.
I would say the weakest thing on that match was me hitting Spider with a fucking rose.
Yeah.
And that was...
Yep, that was probably up there.
And it actually did have a, thorns on it, but still, when you look at it, yeah, getting hit with a rose compared to everything else, that's about it.
I'll take getting hit with a rose over getting stabbed with a box cutter any day.
But after that show, after that show, so many fucking rumors got started too. Like, the rumor that pissed me off the most about that was me and Spider were backyard wrestlers that wrestled together. That was the first time I ever met Spider that night.
So how is it the first time you meet someone, be like, hey, I'm going to stab you?
Well, it was funny because, like, I showed him that I had box cutters. I'm the one that brought the box cutters. And the original thing was, we were just going to pull them out and, like, gig each other's head. And we were going to just try to freak people out that we were messing with box cutters. And he's the one that just said it. Yeah, he's the one that just said it. He was like, hey, just, stick it in, stab me. And I gave him that look,
that
like...
doesn't surprise me at all. Knowing Spider, that doesn't surprise me in the least.
But you know what? I mean, he put, like, some ultimate trust in me that night to do that shit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, and then...
I wouldn't let you stab me.
And then the rest was history after that.
Nope.
I stabbed him, and, it fucking blew up from hell there.
Yes. Yeah, it was the talk of the internet for a while there.
So, then we bounce about a year ahead, and Carnage Cup 8, you get your first. Was Carnage Cup 8 the first time you got a gig actually doing commentary?
That was my first time. Let me explain to you how this worked. After Carnage Cup 7, I was listening to because some of the podcasts were talking about it, and I don't remember which podcast it was, but like 3 in a row brought up the fans bring weapons, and someone brought a toilet seat wrapped in barbed wire, which of course was mine. I was kind of ended up being, a mainstay of the Nathan Statistic Playground matches. And on the feed, on the chat feed on it, I said, well, shit, next time you should just have a Nathan brings the weapons match. And Kevin goes, okay. I'm like, wait a minute, what? I was kidding. You're serious? He's like, yeah, man, go nuts. And the Nathan Sadistic Playground match was born. So fast forward to Carnage Cup 8, where they're going to have that match, and I was there, and Smooth was not. We won't go into why, but Smooth didn't show up. And so Kevin comes up to me, and he goes, hey, you want to do commentary on your match? And I was just in the crowd 3 sheets to the wind by now. And it's like, hell yeah, I want to do commentary on my match. So the first Nathan Sadistic Playground match is the first match I ever called.
And was that the only match you called, or did you stay out there?
Nope. Evan came on and goes, he was kind of standing over beside the truck, because we were sitting in the back of the U-Haul there where the hard cam was.
Yeah.
And he's like, that was pretty good, man. You want to do the rest of the show? Like, yeah, sure. And I've been the voice of IWA Deep South ever since.
Yep.
So that's how that started.
Like, yeah, I mean, I definitely remember. I remember the one quote I remember from Jeremy that night is, "Work the hard cam."
Yep, hard cam kid. Interesting. You know who my first commentary partner ever was?
Who?
Brian.
Bro, Brian Woods.
Brian Woods. Do you know who my second commentary partner was?
Spider.
Who did the second match I ever called? Nope, you.
Oh, me?
Yep. You were the second person I ever did commentary with.
Carnage Cup 8 was, it was a funny story. To me, it was one of my favorite stories to tell is because, when I took that book in, I was still on damn crutches from when I broke my damn leg.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I took that booking was to wrestle Spider in the Saw 2. Because, originally, I fought Madman Pondo first round. And originally, I was supposed to have wrestled Phil Macchio first round. But, it got changed around a little bit so Madman Pondo could be put in Carnage Cup that year.
Card subject to change.
Yeah, so, Phil got kicked out. And, well, of course, Phil got his revenge at the end of that match. But, that was a story there. I don't know if we've ever really told that Phil was originally my opponent in that Deep Sea match.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you get
it. But him and Pondo ended up having a match the next day.
Yep. That was the whole point of him coming out there, screwing him over at the end of mine to set up for them on day 2.
Okay. Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Originally, I think the mindset for me in the beginning was, what matches did Thumbtack Jack do? And I was going to redo them. And, that was the point of the Deep Sea match that night.
Right. So I remember, do you remember that Waffle House after Carnage Cup 7? I didn't know that was what you were going for. And I go, you remind me of kind of Thumbtack Jack, the way you wrestle. And you and your buddies are like, kind of laugh. And I'm like, what? That's exactly what he's going for.
Well, what's funny, and this is a god-awful true story, is I did not know that there was a Thumbtack Jack whenever I did Backyard Wrestling, and I had a character named Thumbtack Jack. And I named him after, Cactus Jack. Because, I loved Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. But I did not know there was a real-life Thumbtack Jack, which I don't know when, Thumbtack Jack actually started using his name. But, in 2000 is when I started using the name in Backyard. And I never knew that there was a real Thumbtack Jack until some of my Backyard stuff got uploaded. And, there was a fan, bitching and complaining that I was using the name. And he said I was ripping off, Thumbtack Jack. So that's when I looked up who was Thumbtack Jack.
You're like, damn it.
And, well, what's funny, I don't know if he was... I don't know if he was joking with me or not. But, I was in the back at Carnage Cup 5. And, that's when Thumbtack Jack was there. He told me that he stole the name from somebody over there in Germany. So I don't know if he was just messing with me or not.
Thumbtack Jacks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of Thumbtack Jacks, to be honest.
I mean, it's such a great name. Someone else had to have thought of it, and then someone else took it. Like, damn, that's good, and took that. So.
Well, in our backyard, we actually had we had Thumbtack Jack, which was me. Then we had Thumbtack Mac. We had Thumbtack Zach. Like, we had a whole Thumbtack family. So it wasn't like I just plainly ripped his damn name off.
That's awesome. There's a whole Thumbtack clan.
Of course, once I found out about it, I just tried to go by Jack, and then I on the indie scene. Before I ever got really big, I still used the character, but I went by Mad Jack instead.
And we see how well that worked out for you. Are you still known as Jack?
A jack of all trades. So what?
I'm going to stop right there.
So what was your opinion or thoughts when you seen the main event for Carnage Cup 8, which was John Wayne Murdoch, Freak Show, Spider Boudreaux, and Matt Tremont, and you got to see that hellacious ending?
Well, it started at the very beginning of the match before when they were wrapping the kerosene-soaked rags around the barbed wire.
Yeah.
And getting ready to light them. Hondo is standing right beside me, and he's like, "That ring's gonna catch on fire." What? He's like, "Yeah, that ring's gonna catch on fire." And so they light them. And we're standing there watching flaming kerosene fall on the boards. And so he's like, Kevin, water. And he comes and sprays down the boards. Like, okay, the ring almost went up in flames, and that would have made for a killer fire death match. But, yeah, I was shocked. I saw them going up on the truck. They're at the end, and me and Jeremy are running with the camera because the mics were not cordless. They were plugged into the camera. So if we didn't keep up with that camera, they were going to get unplugged. And the camera guy was going ahead of us, and the crowd was closing in kind of between us. So me and him were just shoulder blocking people out of the way. So as we're running back to the truck, you hear me talking, and then real quietly go, "Sorry, kid," and then keep going because I knocked some kid over. But yeah, we're back there, and we're just standing there, just looking at each other, and looking at the truck. Looking at each other like they're not really gonna. Holy shit, they are! And they came off. I thought one or both of them was not getting back up because that was a hellacious fall. And what was it? Was it 2 or 4? I can't remember if they were doubled up or not. The tables, but it was not enough to break their fall.
I think it was.
I mean, they went straight through them.
Yeah, I think it was 4 to be honest. But yeah, Spider alone would smash those damn tables by himself doing that.
Yeah, and that was... I guess you don't realize how tall one of those tractor trailers is until you see someone jump off one.
Yeah.
that was insane.
Let's see,
Spider's got to be one of the most fearless men I have ever seen in the sport. Like, that dude will do damn near anything.
Like, you remember earlier in the day, me and him did the Saul death match, the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And
giant push-pin table.
Yeah, there was so many. Yeah, he went through that no damn problem. Hell, he I swear he volunteered to take that. But
yeah, he dove straight into it. Oh, that one was brutal. What got me about that one? And it was my first experience. Well, it was my first commentary experience. But it was my first experience with not being able to see from the commentary position. Because me and Jeremy are doing our best to call, and we just see you and Spider fight out into the crowd. And the crowd kind of closes in, and we can't see what the hell's going on. But that was when did he throw you through the grill, or did you throw him through the grill?
I suplexed him on the grill.
That's what I thought. And we couldn't see that. We had no idea that was going on. I'm like, I watched it back later, and I'm like, well, damn, I could have made a good call there, but couldn't see a damn thing. So, but yeah, that was the first time you went from box cutters to power tools, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and that was the funny story on that one. Is like when Kevin originally brought it out, he was like, hey, hit Spider with this, and me and like all three of us were there talking about it. What we were going to do with it, and the now this is a funny story. And, Kevin or Spider can back this story up. Is I took the grinder because he was like, "How are we going to do it?" So I took the grinder, turned it on. I'm trying to show the scar on my arm right here. It's right here. I took the grinder to myself first, and I was like, "I'm just going to nick you just like this," and I nicked myself real quick and easy. And he was like, "God damn, dude, I love you." So, I nicked myself before it, just practicing, seeing how it was and everything. And what's funny is my scar on my arm from that is worse than his. Like, I got him so smooth. Like, it just probably took a little bit of the first, layer of skin off. No big deal. That's why I ended up hitting him twice with it, is because I got him so, so gingerly the first time. It cut him, but it was just so smooth that, there wasn't no blood. Yeah. But,
Yeah,
like,
rewinding just a second. Before Carnage Cup 8, there was one more show after Carnage Cup 7 that I attended as a fan before I became the voice of IWA Deep South. And that was the one where you broke your leg.
Wrestlepalooza.
Yep, that was the only other show I ever attended of IWA Deep South that I didn't call.
Man, like, I still regret that night so fucking bad because, like, me and Freak Show had such a killer fucking match laid out for that night. Like,
Right.
We had so many fucking killer spots. Like, we were going to steal the fucking show. And that fucking incident happened and, just fucked everything up.
Did you guys ever have a chance to have that match?
Nope. Me and him never did do a one-on-one after that.
I was about to say, I never remember you guys going one-on-one. I mean, you've been in, multi-man matches together. I don't ever remember you going one-on-one. Okay.
But yep, we never got to do it.
Someone needs to make that happen.
Before I retire again.
Exactly. Well, you're on the Terry Funk retirement plan.
Like, I've got some... Basically, when I decided to come out of retirement was because, Cross no-showed that one show, so I stepped in for him to take on Peter. But, after that, I was like, I got a few names that I didn't get to wrestle that I originally wanted to wrestle. And I was like, this is my chance to wrestle them and get the fuck back out.
The Get List retirement tour.
Yeah.
I got you.
Just with a lot less crazy shit.
Yeah, the other thing about Carnage Cup 8, when you were talking about the finals, was I cannot imagine how hot that barbed wire was after burning for so long.
Yes.
Like that thin metal. I can't imagine how hot that was. And Spider, it was Spider. Freak Show threw him into it, and he just kind of hung on it for a second. And then when he got up, you could see his shirt like halfway burned through.
Yes.
I was like, damn, that had to hurt,
So,
that's one of those brutal bumps that, like, if you're not really watching, you don't really notice it. But when you see what's going on, you're just like, oh my god, that's,
Well, when he shot him into the ropes and he fell to the outside, that's whenever he got that concussion.
Oh, yeah, that was a nasty, nasty fall.
So...
We say that, and then he, 10 minutes later, he came off a truck, but that was a really nasty fall.
Well, Spider's mindset in going in that show was, he was there to win it, he was there to kill it, and, he did, he fucking did his job that night.
Yeah.
So...
One of my favorite memories from that show, because in my match, I had the balloon board.
Yes.
So the board covered in balloons full of salt and lemon juice. And, like, my weapons ended up in half of the matches on the show, because they didn't use them all during the match, so they kind of got dispersed and reused, especially the deathbed. But, they used that in Matt Tremont and Cody Kruger. They used the balloon board. And so after the show, I was going up to, the guy selling every good show. That was awesome. And I'm walking up to Matt, and he's picking glass out of him, and like, he had just taken that, fall with splatter off the truck. And I get about 10 feet, and he just puts up his hands, like, stop. I'm like, what? He goes, brother, that lemon juice fucking sucked. I was like, dude, you just came off a truck, and you're covered in broken glass, and you're worried about the lemon juice.
During this, like, my generation now of deathmatch wrestlers, I don't think nobody even fucking compares to Tremont. Like, I say Tremont is, this generation's, fucking number one guy. And to me, there's no one even fucking close to him.
Well, he's the most decorated tournament competitor of all time. I mean, the dude has the trophies and the cups and the titles to prove it. I mean, that dude he's the goods, man. He's such a good dude, too.
Yes. Like, when he came down for Birmingham Hardcore, he cut us a hell of a deal just so he could be put on our show. And I don't know if you remember it or not, but you remember the time whenever the rumor was going around that, he may had something, in his blood, like, Hep C or something. That was around the time when he came, he was booked for our show. And, some of the shit fans just immediately started bashing him because of that shit. And, that pissed me and Frog off. He was one of the most loved at that time, building up to that. And then those people just turned on him so fucking quick. And then guess what? It wasn't even fucking true,
Man, that's the way internet fans are. They just love to stir the shit. They love to jump on anyone that, any chink in the armor, they'll jump on it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of today's fan, I guess you'd say, but like, social media is both the best and worst thing that ever happened to wrestling.
True. I've said that so many times. Social media has killed wrestling. I mean, to me, WWE, all the big leagues now, it gets killed because of spoilers and just bullshit that you get off the internet.
Yeah, but used properly, it can be a great way to advertise indie shows, to build storylines, all that kind of stuff. But that it's a double-edged sword because it's a great thing for that kind of stuff, but then you've got, like I said, the kind of fans that want to tear everything down and, spoilers coming out and all that kind of stuff, because people can't let stuff just be fun.
So, I'll tell you what was fun. We went to Tullahoma, Tennessee for Carnage Cup 9, and yet again you returned and you brought your match back again. Nathan Sadistic
Playground 2. I did a second version of the Deathbed, which for one thing we forgot from 8. That first person going through it was?
Oh, no.
The only person that has been through the doors of WWE who has taken one of my weapons.
Oh.
By Sarah Logan.
Sarah Logan.
She was the first person into it. But yeah, I love the way they used it with, in the Battle Royal. Sick of the Clown.
Oh, yeah.
When they threw him out, and the Deathbed that was the best one I ever built. And it was so well strung. I said well strung. That when he hit, it caught him. And it didn't break or anything. He just caught him, and they were like, he didn't hit the ground, throw him back in there. And they just picked him up and threw him back in the match because he hadn't been eliminated.
Yeah.
Like, it was the deathmatch Kofi Kingston that day. Anyway, 9. Yeah, and Tullahoma, we all stayed at Nazi Pines.
Yes, the cheapest fucking hotels ever.
I went back to Tullahoma not too awful long ago for Freak Shows tournament.
Yeah.
And I can attest, Naughty Pines is still a shithole. I stayed there just for nostalgia's sake, and that's the last time I'll be making that mistake.
So, I've said this many times. Carnage Cup 9 was like a proving ground for me because at that time I kind of had heat on me with the Deep South crowd, I was getting looked down on at that point. So, like, this was, my chance to try to win some people back over. And what helped me out the most was I was going against probably one of the most hated guys in Carnage Cup history, Christian Cross.
He more hated than you, yeah.
And like,
I remember the knock on you at that point was everyone was just saying you were Kevin's boy and you hadn't earned it.
yeah, like they were saying I was Kevin's boy, and then my performances after Carnage Cup 8 were a little bit down because I wasn't bumping as much as I used to, and I just honestly I wasn't comfortable in the ring yet. I've said that before. I was not ready to be back in that ring yet.
Yeah, you can tell at Carnage Cup 8 you're kind of tentative on it, and I can fuck yeah, of course you are. I mean, I just came off of last year having back surgery and knee surgery, and like anything even remotely, active makes me nervous. I can't imagine getting in a ring after a major injury or surgery or anything like that. I can only imagine, dude. I don't knock you at all for that.
And yeah, and I've brought that up a million times. Everyone was like, yeah, you're Kevin's boy. That's why you're getting all this push and everything. And and that when people say that, you just got to push harder and fucking go out there and do more.
Yep. And I guess the way to do it is to get someone a little more hated than you.
Yeah, that was.
He wasn't as hated at that time as he would be. Like he had heat, but he didn't have nuclear heat yet.
Yeah.
That would come later.
Yeah, and you know what? To me, he did a great job in our match. And the whole shock of him winning went over very fucking well.
That match actually changed my approach to doing commentary. Because before that, I had always told Kevin, don't tell me a damn thing. I want to call it as I see it. Like, I want everything to come as a surprise.
Yeah.
Because I've read in an interview that that's the way Jim Ross does it. And so speaking of which, Spider once called me the deathmatch Jim Ross. Like, damn, that's the coolest common format ever. But I think I fit the deathmatch Gordon Soley better. And it's not because I think I'm that good, because I am not nearly arrogant enough to compare myself to the GOAT. It's because just like Gordon Soley, I have never called a match sober. But yeah, before that I had always said, don't tell me what's going on. But I just happened to overhear that Christian was going into the next round. It was just like everyone else, I assumed it would be you.
Yeah.
And that way, if you listen to commentary, I built up during the entire match. It's like, oh God, kid, just quit now. Just built up that he had no chance in hell. And then, at the end, just the shock of him rolling you up like that. So that was the first time I ever found out beforehand, so I could build the story. And I was like, I kind of like that better. So that match actually changed my approach to doing commentary for up until this day.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
The big shock that weekend was, of course, me losing to Christian, and then you had a great matchup first round between Spider and JD Horror, and that could.
Yeah, what the hell ever happened to JD?
I don't know. I've been reaching out to certain.
Was awesome.
Yeah, I've been reaching out to certain people to do future interviews, and I thought of him. I was like, damn, what happened to him?
Yeah, that dude, he was really good. I wish he had come over to this side of the country more often.
Yeah.
He didn't make a lot of trips over here. He was mainly a West Coast guy.
Yeah, some of those West Coast guys just stay out that way now. I don't. Hopefully shit changes. I really wish that deathmatch workers and wrestlers were more all around. Like Tremont. That dude will go fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
And now it's you're getting where certain people are territorial now again, where you can only see these people in these certain locations.
Yeah, and that's a very old school way to do it. But I don't know if that really flies as well as it could, like we said, in the age of social media.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, you could have dude in not on, TV or something. But you could do that. Now you can't. Now that dude's matches are on YouTube.
Yes.
So we all know you're there. Come to our area, man. And if people are like you're not going to let your fans in this area of the country see you. So, it's another way it's changed it.
And, one thing, I think Anthony Moscow brought this up. He was like, what was so special about the Saw series is you only got to see it in the Deep South. Because, me and Spider wouldn't go anywhere else to do that match.
Yeah.
That was just a technically it was just a Carnage Cup special at that point.
Yep.
And
because you that particular one, the two most memorable matches in that first round to me were you and Christian, just because that the shock of the win, and John Wayne Murdoch, Damian Payne at that point, like almost losing his arm, man.
Yeah.
Jeez, that cut he got.
There was actually, I don't know if you were at this show or not. You remember LXW Thunder Mania?
I don't think I was at that one.
That was slightly around the time that the commission came in. And I was actually going to do a stunt in that match for John Wayne Murdoch to, really try to have that real shock value like the stab was. I was actually going to let him hang me for a while, like legitimately hang me from something. And, we ended up having to bail on it because of the commission bullshit. They wouldn't have allowed that bullshit.
I don't recall the rules specifically mentioning hanging, though.
Yeah.
I remember you couldn't, because hanging doesn't make you bleed.
True.
So, you might could have gotten away with that.
But yeah, we did bail on it. Like, what sucks is we had to bail on that, but what he did do was just throw me off bleachers onto like a hidden backstage area.
That almost works.
Yeah, and what was worse is like when he threw me off, the camera caught that there was a board down there to catch me. It was supposed to have been the shock that, I went through this shit and you don't know what happened to me. But the camera caught that I landed on something.
Right.
And then it made it...
I remember that tournament at Carnage Cup 8 was the only one where they had us sitting right up at the ring.
Carnage Cup 9?
School WCW style.
Yeah.
9. So
Yeah.
They had me and Smooth like right up against the ring. You're like, but even the commentators are bleeding at this tournament.
Yes.
but yeah, I remember when Damien went through that thing, and I was sitting just did a catty corner turnbuckle to him, and just watched that open up. I was like, oh god, I say that's the most horrific injury I've seen live, because was on the other side of the ring and did not see you hit the ground.
Yeah.
When you broke your leg.
Oh yeah.
So like when I actually witnessed that's still the worst one I've seen.
Well, that night we did, Saw 3. And, the story of Saw 3 was, we both came off of a loss on day one. We were both the champions of our, brands. He was the IWA champion and I was LXW champion. And, Kevin set up...
And you both won one of the Saw matches.
Yes. So, yeah, everything was, tied up at that point.
Yep.
And, the original plan Kevin wanted was for me to win that night. And I turned it down. Which that was actually my second time turning down the IWA Deep South title. Because I was supposed to have defeated Freak Show once, and I turned it down. And I turned this one down, which, it wasn't I turned down. It was Spider and, I talked, and we thought it would be better that it came to a draw instead. And, I completely understood. So, that's what we went with. And
well, yeah, continue the story, which is good. And what was interesting about that match was that Kevin pulled us off a commentary and put the song, the credit song from Saw, playing throughout the match.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty cool move. Like when he first said, "Yeah, no, y'all are doing commentary on this," I'm like, okay, that's weird. music and you hear the fans and you hear you guys.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what it is. Imagine if the whole empty arena thing that's happening right now didn't suck. That's basically what that was.
Yeah,
It made it such an intimate atmosphere.
Saw 3 to this day, I still say is my favorite one. Like,
I agree wholeheartedly.
it was just everything came together on it. I don't think he got injured in that one. Like, my thing was my hand got fucked up the first time with the glass and the second time with the razor. I cut my hand my hand was fucked up that night. But other than that, I was perfect. No injuries or nothing. And Kevin actually awarded another stab spot in that match. And me and Spider,
of course he did.
yeah, me and Spider was like, no, we're not going to do it. We wanted to put on a Saw match that didn't have to be gimmicked, like a box cutter or power saw.
Right.
And
he just had razor wire.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought it went over well because to this day it is my favorite Saw match.
And I agree. Like you and Spider always had really good in-ring chemistry. But on that particular night, I don't know what it was. There was something in the air or what. Like, you guys were clicking on all cylinders. And that one was, all the rest of them were good. They were really good. That one is great.
And what's funny is, I swear, I think the only spot that we planned that night was the go home when we both came off of the, the roof.
Right.
That was
the one where I was pretty sure we were both going to die.
Yeah. What was funny is, like, I don't know if you heard, but, like, Spider was saying something, and I was like, well, you're on my fucking arm. And he was like, quit bitching.
I remember at that, when Kevin told us we weren't going to be doing commentary, I was like, sweet, because I hadn't eaten all day, so I ran to the snack bar and got some nachos. And I come back and sit down to watch your match, and I look up, and the first thing I see is light tubes breaking over you and glass flying my way and filling my nachos.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. The glass landed in your nachos and shit.
Yep. I ate them anyway.
But, at this point, this was the third Saw. Tremont did go on to win that one, it helped solidify him as the greatest, to me, the greatest of all time in death matches.
Yep. That was when he won the triple crown.
Yeah, at that time,
Then he had won TOD, King of the Death, and Carnage Cup.
Yes. So at this point, and I don't know if you knew this, I don't know if we've really ever said this. Originally, when the time came, and we were talking about putting on Carnage Cup 9, the original plan for like a split second was I was going to win 9, but the way we scheduled it and the matches win and everything, they thought it would be best that I didn't win 9 and put it off to 10. So, with that happening, we roll up on Carnage Cup 10, and like 10 was just a tremendous fucking show. It was huge. You got to do commentary with a legend, Chris Kloss.
Yeah. People ask me a lot who my favorite commentary partner is, and I can't say that because everyone brings something different to the table. Like if I'm doing comedy, I want to be there with Gene Jackson.
Yeah.
If I really enjoy my chemistry with Smooth. I really enjoyed me and Jeremy have a really natural flow. Kloss, because even beyond being a wrestling commentator, he's just been a broadcaster for so long that they say the way to become a better wrestler is to wrestle people better than you, more experienced than you, and you just kind of learn in the ring. They don't have to teach you; you just kind of pick it up while you're working. That's the way working with Kloss was. During the 2 days of working with him, I learned so much about timing, about setting the other person up for their lines, about all that kind of stuff. It was a class in how to do it, and that dude is straight up class act. The second day when I was all hungover, him doing that stupid scream in my ear and I wanted to hit him. but working with him was awesome. Like, that dude's great.
Like, y'all's commentary was so fucking good during, the Saw 4 match. And,
yeah, the finals.
And, it was the finals. What was funny is, they didn't announce it as Saw 4. They announced it as, they basically named off...
name in history.
Yeah, they named it off as every fucking weapon that was in it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's Saw 4. You just named off every fucking weapon, and that's not even the name of the match.
The name of this match just took a minute and a half. You could have just said Saw 4.
Yeah. But what's...
Yeah, all told, that's my favorite Carnage Cup. Was 10. Just from the actual in-ring product, that is my favorite Carnage Cup.
Like, classic matches, yeah, Carnage Cup 10 had a shitload. Like, you had Corp, you had Tank, Bryant killed it that night. You've never seen Bryant as bloody as he was that night.
God, that dude good. And him and Insane Lane had the Lane Bryant death match.
Yeah.
But you had a hell of a match with Chewy in the third, and as of right now, last Nathan the Sadistic Playground match.
Yeah, and we fought, like, I love Chewy to death. We killed it. I think the only weapon that shocked him was the cactus. When I opened that present and dumped the cactus out, he said, I don't remember what he said, but it was basically like, fuck no, or fuck you, or something like that.
I remember he had said at one point he would do anything but cactus.
Yeah.
And I had brought that cactus. I'm like, what do we do? So on our way home on night one, we stopped at the store and got some wrapping paper. Threw it in the box and wrapped it up and brought it the next day. I was like, okay, they won't know until it's in there. But, so, you actually campaigned to be in my match. You said you wanted to be in the Nathan Sadistic Playground match.
Yes.
Like, what were some of your favorite toys in there, and how do my toys stack up?
Well, your toys are fucking crazy. Like, my favorite thing in that was the fucking, the needle board, the needle board.
Oh, the syringe board.
Syringe board. And what's funny is, like, I was actually going to take some more crazy fucking bumps on it, but Chewy was like, no, be careful with that shit, he took care of me. And, I've learned this over the years. I always wanted to do more in my matches than what I should. And,
sometimes less is more.
Yeah. And, that's exactly right. Less is more now, and I'm learning that at the end of my career. But I always wanted to go out there, and me, I always wanted to go out there and just fucking go overboard. And, that was, with that board, that's what I was wanting to damn do. But, we PG'd it down a little bit.
that might be, that is, and I will say this with the utmost of ego. I think that's the sickest deathmatch weapon that's ever been made. And I defy anyone to beat. And that was 666 syringes set up bed of nails style.
Yes.
And I remember it sitting in the back and just watching, like, the list of names in that Carnage Cup is, like, the most hardcore dudes ever. They're a bunch of, crazy people. And I saw one by one all of them walk by it and look at it and go, nope. 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 And when you take it, when Chewie throws it down on you and hits it into you with a chair, you see in the crowd, like, that was a sellout of the curtain. Like, the other deathmatch wrestlers cringing in the background.
Yeah.
When you take that, like, yeah, because I think Chewie got a sick fuck chant out of that. And I'm like, you know what? I'll take credit for having it. Because I always wanted, one thing I always wanted and never got, was I wanted just when I set the ring up to get a sick fuck chant.
Yeah.
Always want, I got a thank you Nathan chant, which was awesome. Like, choked me up. But I always wanted that one. But I never got it. But I'm like, you know what? Every single one of the Nathan Sadistic Playground matches, one of the wrestlers got that chant, and that's good enough for me.
The
they
only...
were using my shit when they got it.
Like, yeah, I know getting hit with it, it was... it was basically like a tattoo, it felt like a shitload of needles going in you all at one damn time. And, other than that, yeah, it wasn't bad, but I've always said this, is that, like, I have never turned down a weapon or spot ever, except a rock salt gun. That was brought up before, and I said no. I would not use. I'm not going to use no fucking kind of gun at all. That's to me. That's
Was
just
it Kevin that suggested that?
yes.
Shocking.
But I just refused to use and it was me going to pull the trigger on it, and I still refused. I was like, I'm not going to do that. But taking a bump, I've used any weapon that's ever been brought to me, because that's how the porcupine quill ended up getting put in my match at Carnage Cup 11, is because nobody else wanted to use it. So I was just like, throw the shit in here with me.
I was looking at that, I'm like, that's awesome.
But
I was impressed with that one.
But Carnage Cup 10, what's bad is I do not remember the main event. I was drunk. Hell, I think I was even drunk during me and Chewy's match. Like, what sucked about 10 is I was sick already. Like, that whole weekend I was sick, which pissed me off. So I was on...
Let me ask you one more question about that match.
What's up?
Because for the ending of the match, you all used the third iteration of the Deathnet with the dangling light tube platform.
Yes.
Was that supposed to be the finish?
Yes, it was. See,
because it looked like it. I don't know if y'all were just doing a masterful job of selling, but it looked like Chewy got stuck.
Yeah, like, well, he got stuck, but that was what was supposed to happen, because he hit me with his finisher. So why would I win when he just hit me with his finisher?
Right.
And and it made it more magical that, like, I barely even made it up by the 10 count, when I did. And hell, Kevin actually pulled me up.
Kevin reaches down and grabs you. It's hilarious.
So, like, Kevin grabs and picks me up to make sure that I make the damn count. But, that's whenever I just start, like, unleashing all the damn light tubes on them. And, Chewy, sells it like he's just fucking tangled up in that shit. And that's why I win, because he got tangled up. Not necessarily that I beat him. He just got fucking stuck to the damn bed.
In that case, that is a masterful sell job by Chewy.
Yeah.
This one's for you, man. I love that dude. Let me say one thing right quick, because we keep mentioning Kevin. And, like, Kevin is a controversial figure in indie wrestling, to say the least. But that dude gave me the opportunity to do all this. Like, if he had never put me on commentary, he's the one that put me in the game, man. So I will always be a Kevin Brannon guy.
Yeah, like, when it comes to death matches, yeah, Kevin put me out there. Like, I lived up north, and I always said that if I would have continued to live up north, I probably would have trained up there, and I probably would have been a Mid-South guy, to tell you the truth. But, I moved down here, and, the rest is history at that point. So, I ended up winning Carnage Cup 10, which is, one of the highlights of my career. Winning that fucking trophy is something special, especially going into it, probably the least most expected to win. Nobody thought I was going to win that shit.
Yeah.
And, I won. And like I said, I was drunk. I really don't even fucking remember it. Like, whenever I watched it back on DVD, it was like I was just living it for the first time, because I did not fucking remember.
That's the exact same way it is when I hear my commentary.
So then we finally, I got that, and years later, we go to Camp Carnage, which was Carnage Cup 11.
I said 10 was my favorite Carnage Cup. Camp Carnage, though, is my favorite place we've had one.
Yes, it was fucking fun. And what was fun about it with me too is we were filming that movie, and I don't know if you've heard, but we have talked to the director, and it's looking very good that it's going to be released hopefully this fucking year.
Finally.
And what I know a lot's got to go into making a movie. It's so
Yeah.
Patience is hopefully going to be worth it, and like it's going to be a fun fucking movie. But we were so busy that weekend. We filmed. I think I filmed for the movie like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Chewy stayed with me, I think Friday night, and we headed up there Saturday. And that's all we did was fucking film over those damn days like crazy.
But one of your co-stars in the movie, Aaron Brown.
Yes.
Actually, a couple of months ago, Because me and her are both in a movie called Once Upon a Night. Mother Goose's Once Upon a Night. Mother Noose's Once Upon a Nightmare. It's coming out later this year, and she's worked with a group called Buckshort Productions, and I'm in some of their movies too. So we ended up at the same table at Days of the Dead in Atlanta selling our movies. And when she would walk off to, go, sign something or take a picture or go to the bathroom or whatever, she had the, she used to be known as Misty Monday back in the day. And she made a movie called Lord of the G-Strings. She was big into those softcore parodies. And she had it hanging on the table. So when she wasn't there, people would walk up and look down at the Lord of the G-Strings poster and look back up at me. And they kind of look back down at the poster. And I'm like, no, don't worry. I am not in that one. I swear.
She was definitely fun to work with. Like, I don't want to release too much on the movie, but yeah, our relationship in the movie was fucking awesome. It was a love-hate relationship in that movie. But, for the first time ever, Saul was actually split up into 3 matches. It was a 2 out of 3 falls, in which originally, Kevin's idea was just to do a 2 out of 3 and have them, back to back, like a traditional 2 out of 3 match. And I told him, I was like, well, why don't we just split it up, throughout the day, and, it'll be something different. And, he went with it.
Yeah.
And, it had its positives, and then it also had its negatives. The negatives was, by the time we made it to the 3rd one, we were completely fucked up and broken down.
Oh yeah, you could tell when you guys were coming out that you guys were hurt, man.
I've said it before, like, when he's schoolboy, just a simple schoolboy was one of the most painful things that I had to take that day because of my ribs. Because, I broke 2 ribs in the first match.
Yeah.
So that schoolboy was just god awful. And, there wasn't no padding either. It was just wood.
Broken ribs are the worst.
And, like, I couldn't breathe. Like, that's just the flat out truth is, I was gasping for air. Like, we wrapped my ribs in the back, and I was just sitting there gasping for air. He was fucked up. He was beyond fucked up, too.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I had the best seats in the house for that Carnage Cup, man.
Yeah, you had a skybox.
Up there on that hill. It was like Caesar looking down on the gladiator games. Like, me and the Reverend were just sitting there, like, presiding over bloodshed. It was awesome. That place was great.
Now, me and him we both got, horribly fucked up at that point. Which, I say Carnage Cup 11 was, underrated too because, there was a lot of people on that show that, you normally don't see at Carnage Cup, like Marcus Crane, you had Slack.
Yeah.
You had, them other guys on there, and, to me it was kind of underrated. But, a lot of people also, and, this got brought up a little bit, was, they thought certain people milked in their performances at Carnage Cup 11.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
There are certain people I agree with.
Yeah.
So
that was like...
Also, some of that might have something to do with the fact that was the show, that was the never-ending Carnage Cup.
Yes.
Like, that was the longest show ever. Like, that was longer than WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was literally, it fucking lasted all damn day, and it didn't end. Hell, but it went on way after I fucking left, because, when I left, we originally were going to the damn hospital, and I ended up not going, but...
That's one, because if you listen to the commentary on the finals, me and Dan are both shit-faced by that point. So we've been up there drinking space juice all day, and I've talked to him. Neither of us remembers calling the final at all. But we managed to do our job. I always drink when I'm doing commentary, but I defy you to go find a show where I got too drunk to do my job.
Yeah.
That one was real close, though.
Like, I remember... I don't even know if I drunk at this one. Well, I probably sipped on some, but I wasn't, drunk. But...
Oh, you had that moonshine in that one.
Oh, yeah, I did. I did have bottles of moonshine. I thought, yeah, you're right. Fuck.
I don't want to forget things like that.
But, like, the memory that I have the most of is, like, when they, they were about to, like, cart me off. And, I was like, nah, I ain't doing that shit. So I walked, and like I swear, the minute I got to the back, the people that I came with, they snatched up all my gear in my like the bags and everything, just threw it in the truck. They like grabbed a tarp from fucking somewhere, put it on the back seat, and like just gingerly threw me in and floored it.
Genuinely threw me. I like that. I'm using that.
Cause like I just, and what's funny is I remember I was like wrapped up in the damn tarp in the back seat, so I didn't get the seats fucked up. Cause I was a bloody mess. But
Yeah.
I had one fucking taco from the taco shack there, and
God, they were great, weren't they?
yes, they were fucking awesome. And for some reason, I managed to get the one I was eating on the way home. Just so happened to be like the jalapeno one, and if you remember, that was fucking spicy as hell.
Hell yeah, it was.
So we're driving, and I didn't realize it was the jalapeno one. I'm sitting there, writhing in pain, couldn't breathe. I took a big ass bite of it, and it was the fucking jalapeno one. I didn't have nothing to fucking drink.
Oh God.
And I was just like, oh
and that
God.
was more painful than any of your injuries.
And I was just like, oh God, more fucking pain.
Oh man.
And if you remember, that place was, kind of far away from anything, just to get something to fucking
Kind
drink.
of? What do you mean kind of? That place is in the middle of nowhere.
Like, and like deathmatch wise, how do you rank up like the Saw deathmatch series? Like you've been there for all of them except for Legacy. You missed Saw Legacy.
Wait, which one was that?
That one happened at the Angel of Death tournament.
Okay, yeah. That was the one show I missed.
Yeah, so you did miss Saw Legacy. So, the other Saws, how do you rank those with like any feud in deathmatch history?
Shit, feud. Well, it's definitely the biggest feud that's ever come out of the South in death matches. I'll tell you that. I'd have to think. Like, when you think back to the really great feuds of deathmatch wrestling, there's only a few that really stand out. I mean, you got Cactus and Terry Funk.
Yeah, to me that's number one right there, because those are the two guys that I watched that made me want to do the shit. And one of my first catchphrases, even as like a fucking young kid, was "funk you." I would go around saying "funk you" all the time, and my mom hated it because I was saying it, but I wasn't saying nothing wrong. It was "funk you."
Actually, that's how I got turned on to death matches. Was back watching Cactus Jack and Terry Funk in ECW, and I heard Joey Styles mention the death match tournament that they'd done, and mention wrestling in barbed wire explosions, and she was like, "Whoa, I got to see that!" So I went and tracked it down, and that was how I got introduced to death matches. Was through those guys.
Yeah.
But you got Necro and Kondo.
Yep.
You got so the whole Zandig and Lobo. But I mean, you can name the feuds that were just classic in deathmatch on your fingers, and Saw is up there. It's really up there because like just the continuity of it. Because you have a lot of them that have happened on one show, and then they'll go for a few more months on someone doing monthly shows or something. But the fact that you only saw these matches once a year at best, once every couple of years, usually, gave it that special feel. Like, this is a long-running feud. This was Tito Santana and Rick Martel. You remember how they, in every Royal Rumble for a while, as soon as those two were in the ring together, they'd go after each other.
Yeah.
And it was just, you knew, okay, it's Royal Rumble time, we're going to see some Rick Martel and Tito Santana. That's the way you guys were. Like, you transcended best deathmatch feuds into just great feuds. Period.
Yeah, because, like, I think Kevin's the one that said it at one point. He was like, the Saw series became like the Undertaker's streak. Whenever you thought of WrestleMania, you thought of Undertaker's streak.
Yeah.
When you thought about Carnage Cup, you thought of Saw now.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter what the main event is. you've got a co-main event just because Saw's going to be on the show.
Yes. And, you know,
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Saw Legacy had some, you know, hellacious shit in it. You know, it had the razor wire, it had the table saw. You know, and other than that, yeah, it had, you know, razors and all that kind of shit in it. And, you know, we displayed the younger generation in that Saw match.
Right.
And, of course, you know, Aiden Blackheart won that one because he was the winner. That was the main event for the Angel of Death tournament. So,
Right.
you know, it had it was a different feel to it than any other Saw match, which, you know, that's also the first Saw match that Spider Boudreaux wasn't in.
Right.
But you still had that shock value in it with the table saw. And, of course, you know, the razor wire. I'm taking the razor wire like crazy.
Right.
And
you love that razor wire.
I do. Like, I love the fucking razor wire. I think that's just one gimmick that, you know, you don't see nobody else taking. And I would take it every damn weekend if it made sense, you know.
Like, not even on the show, just for fun.
Yeah. And, you know,
some razor wire.
when you were talking...
I missed Angel of Death, and the only two deathmatch tournaments since I started calling them that I've missed in IWA are the two that were held a week before Halloween.
Yeah.
Like, Halloween season's my busy season, man. Don't run them in out, you know, during Halloween season. I'm not going to be there. So those are the only two I missed. I've called out, like, W shows. I called Softcore Cup. I called, you know, even some, you know, some of the non-hardcore stuff, but the only deathmatch shows I haven't called were those two. Deathmatch Mafia and Angel of Death.
Well, you know, originally I was supposed to have been on Deathmatch Mafia, but I think I ended up having to fucking work that day. And, you know, Pigeon Forge is like, I think 5 to 6 hours for me. And with me working, I just couldn't fucking make it.
Right.
Because I think all I was going to do on that show was going to be, I wasn't even going to be in the tournament itself. I was just going to be in a non-tournament match.
I'm really, you're talking about the drives, I'm really glad that he started running in Cornelia, Georgia.
Yes.
Because that's 2 hours for me. Like, Elkmont was 6, Coleman was like 4.5, Silicata was 5. Like, it was all in that, like, 4 to 6 range. So it's nice having something a little closer to home in my neck of the woods now.
See, like, on a Friday night, like, if I was to get booked on a Friday, I work during the week, so it's got to be like an hour or two drive, or I just can't do it. On Saturdays, you know, I can do, I don't want to do no fucking 5-hour drive anymore. I'm just done with that damn traveling, because I hate traveling.
Right.
But, you know, if it's 2 hours, I can do them.
Now, see, it's fun if I can, you know me, whenever I go to these shows, I bring a whole crew with me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a whole road trip party, you know, but, like, the show, you know, if you got to drive it by yourself, you got, like, you know, just one other person, whatever, that's going to be all, you know? You got to make it a party. That's the trick.
Like,
That's the trick to travel not being bad.
I've pitched the idea to Kevin before about letting me, you know, book and arrange a Carnage Cup for him, just so, you know, he can sit back and, you know, be surprised about it, you know, because, you know, as a promoter, yeah, you know what's going to happen, but wouldn't you like it a little bit more if you were going to be surprised?
Yeah, he'd be the producer.
Yeah. But he's never
Let
been.
me in on that. Let's me and you do a Carnage Cup.
But he ain't bought into it yet. But dude, let me tell you this before we get off here. Like, Angel of Death tournament was the most horrendous experience I've ever had to deal with a show. You know, prior to the show, like, you know, the cancellations, people trying to shut it down. We had ring issues. We had insurance issues. Like, every week there was an issue with the show that, you know, may shut it down. And I quit so many times. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done. I was like, I don't even fucking care. I don't care if it's my damn show or not. I was like, I'm just done. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm fucking tired of it. Because it was like every fucking week something was happening.
I believe it. Because I was, for a long time, I was one of the program directors for a horror convention. And I, you know, put events together like that. And I was, you know, getting actors and directors and all together. I can only imagine
And see, a lot of people, I know a lot of people shit and hate on Kevin for how many times Carnage Cup 12 was gone, and like, or how many times it was booked and how many times it was canceled. And
Right.
you wouldn't picture that something like that would happen. But I was their first hand experience with Angel of Death, and it happened every fucking week. Like, yeah, and then it's hard when people fucking call the building and tell them that you're going to tear the building up and all this kind of shit, and try to purposely get you shut down.
Right. Who was that? Was that like just deathmatch haters or competitors? Or what? Who was
Don't
trying
know.
to get shut down?
Don't know. We never had a name or anything. We had no fucking clue who called up there and did that shit.
Bunch of bitches.
But hey, whatever. It's done. But I've
Yeah,
definitely. You have any final words you want to spit out there real quick?
absolutely. Doing working at IWA has given me a chance to work other places. We had Monstrosity Championship Wrestling in Atlanta. I did Milestone in Charlotte. But what we're doing right now, and it excites me, is Pro Wrestling Georgia. We got to run one show. We had another one planned in June, but it got, of course, like everything else right now, got canceled. But
Yeah.
we're going to come back in October in, oh God, in the old NWA Anarchy. Oh God, what's the name of the town? Starts with a C also. Cornelia, Georgia. And that was from my Cody and Cully. We got Haas up there and Jerry Nelms and all those guys. We had Tank on the last show and Brad Cash, and it's like great group of guys doing. Finally got some really good deathmatch stuff going on in this part of the state.
Yeah.
So with IW running out, out there, and PWG running over here, Georgia's starting to be a place for death matches. So come out and support the shows. Like if you're near Carrollton, if you're near Cornelia, watch for when we're coming, because we've got some great shit to show you. And bloodshed. Who doesn't love bloodshed?
Gene Jackson.
Fuck, don't get me started. Don't even get me started.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I definitely enjoyed it, Nathan. We're going to send you off with a classic theme here, and hopefully everybody enjoyed the show.
It's